We spend thousands of dollars to fly across the world, only to complain that the ice cubes are too small and the locals don't speak American. We aren't looking for culture, we're looking for an outlet for our hairdryer. Here is a list of every awkward, loud, and confusing thing we do the moment we leave the country for vacation. 1. You would think a giant sign explicitly saying, "Do not touch," would be enough to stop us, but for some reason, Americans view it as a personal challenge rather than a rule. We walk into the Louvre, spot a statue that has survived wars, plagues, and 2,000 years of erosion, and decide its smooth surface desperately needs the oil from our unwashed fingertips. It's a compulsion. We have to physically poke the history to make sure it's real. The security guards watch us with a mix of exhaustion and hatred, knowing that no matter how many times they yell, someone from Ohio is going to try to high-five a marble bust of Julius Caesar. 2. We carry the customer is always right mentality like a weapon, trying to export our entitlement to countries that absolutely do not care. We will sit in a family-run bistro in Bordeaux, complain that the wine tastes too earthy, and then demand to speak to a manager who doesn't even exist. We expect a corporate apology voucher or a free meal, but instead, we get a waiter who looks at us like we just insulted his grandmother. The confusion on our faces when the staff refuses to bend over backward for our minor inconvenience is a moment of pure, unadulterated culture shock. 3. There is a special kind of madness involved in the Great American Road Trip that involves driving 400 miles to see absolute garbage. We will burn expensive gas and eat stale jerky for 8 hours just to see the world's largest ball of twine. We arrive, stare at the dusty pile of string for exactly 45 seconds, say, "Huh, look at that," and then leave. That's the whole experience. We don't even enjoy it. We just do it so we can buy a $2 magnet and tell people we went there. The bar for what constitutes entertainment in this country is sometimes disturbingly low. 4. Americans have a dangerous amount of unearned confidence when it comes to ordering spicy food in other countries. Just because you put Tabasco on your eggs back home doesn't mean you are ready for a street curry in Thailand. There's always that one guy in the group who ignores the waiter's warning, orders the local hot version, and takes a massive bite. 3 seconds later, the regret sets in. He spends the rest of the meal sweating, crying, and chugging milk like he's trying to put out a chemical fire in his esophagus while the locals watch with pity. 5. We treat souvenir shopping like a frantic, competitive sport that we are currently losing. We will walk past beautiful, authentic artisan shops all week without stopping, only to have a panic attack at the airport 2 hours before the flight. Suddenly, we are sprinting through the duty-free shop, grabbing overpriced boxes of generic chocolates and tacky plastic snow globes. These gifts don't say, "I missed you." They scream, "I forgot you existed until I saw the boarding gate." It's a tradition of expensive guilt and poor planning that we refuse to change. 6. The emotional betrayal an American feels when they ask for a refill and then receive a bill for a second drink is genuinely heartbreaking. The concept of free refills is so deeply hardwired into our brains that we assume it's a universal human right, like gravity or oxygen. We sit there staring at the receipt in Europe, doing the math, realizing we just spent $30 on 3 glasses of fizzy sugar water. We feel personally scammed, looking around the restaurant in disbelief, wondering how an entire continent functions without an endless supply of high-fructose corn syrup on tap. 7. If you want to see a marriage crumble in real time, just watch an American couple trying to fold a pop-up beach tent at the end of the day. That thing springs open with magical grace, but putting it back into the bag requires an engineering degree and an exorcism. It turns into a public wrestling match on the sand, with dad swearing under his breath and mom aggressively reading the instructions that make zero sense. Eventually, we just smash the mangled wire mess into the trunk of the rental car, drive away in angry silence, and vow to never buy camping gear again. 8. We have a deeply ingrained, almost pathological paranoia about tap water the moment we leave American soil. It doesn't matter if we are in Switzerland, where the municipal water is basically melted glacier. Tears filtered through diamonds. We will still hunt down plastic bottles like we are prepping for the apocalypse. We look at the hotel sink with deep suspicion, convinced that one sip will give us a medieval disease that wipes out the rest of the trip. Meanwhile, the locals are drinking from public fountains and living to be 90, watching us pay €5 for water that came from the exact same pipe. 9. We treat air conditioning like a fundamental human right, ranking it right up there with freedom of speech. We walk into a 500-year-old castle that has survived plagues and revolutions, and our first complaint is that it's a little stuffy. If the thermostat isn't set to a meat locker temperature of 68 degrees, we start melting like the Wicked Witch of the West. A hotel room with just a ceiling fan and an open window isn't a charming European experience to us. It's a humanitarian crisis and a valid reason to demand a full refund. 10. There is a demonic force that compels us to buy absolute garbage the moment we enter vacation mode. We stare at a cheap plastic Eiffel Tower or a sombrero made in a factory in China and think, yes, this will look perfect on my mantle. It won't. It never does. These items exist solely to gather dust and remind us of how much money we wasted. Our basements are basically museums of regret, filled with t-shirts we will never wear and wooden flutes we have no idea how to play. 11. You fly 5,000 miles across the ocean, land in a city with centuries of culinary history, and where do you go? The Hard Rock Cafe to eat a cheeseburger that tastes exactly like the one in Cleveland. It is a baffling ritual. We bypass authentic local cuisine just so we can buy a generic t-shirt that proves we went to Copenhagen but refused to eat a single Danish thing. It's the ultimate safety blanket for people who claim to love travel, but actually just love appetizers and classic rock played at high volume. 12. Americans have a reflex where we cannot compliment a foreign landmark without immediately mentioning something better back home. We stand in front of the Swiss Alps, majestic and terrifying, and say, yeah, but have you seen the Rockies? We can't just let a castle be a castle, we have to compare it to a bigger, newer hotel in Vegas. It's like we're trying to win a competition that nobody else knows is happening, just to prove the USA is still the main character of Earth. 13. The sheer terror that washes over an American face when a credit card gets declined abroad is Oscar-worthy acting. For that split second, we aren't just tourists with a banking glitch. We are destitute, stranded refugees who will never see our families again. We start hyperventilating and imagining a life begging on the streets of Paris, completely forgetting that we have 3 other platinum cards and $500 in cash in our fanny pack. The drama is instant, total, and completely unnecessary. 14. We view any vehicle smaller than a military tank with deep suspicion. Renting a standard European compact car feels like we are being asked to drive a motorized toaster. We squeeze into these tiny hatchbacks and immediately panic, because there are no cup holders for our 64-ounce sodas. We feel exposed and vulnerable without 4 tons of steel protecting us. If we can reach the passenger door without unbuckling our seatbelt, we assume the car is a death trap designed to kill us personally. 15. There is nothing quite as chaotic as an American renting a car in the UK and getting genuinely angry that everyone is on the wrong side of the road. We grip the steering wheel with white knuckles, drifting into the wrong lane while screaming that the locals don't know how to drive. We honk at people for following their own laws, fully convinced that the entire country organized this traffic pattern just to mess with us. It is a masterclass in international arrogance and poor spatial awareness. 16. We seem to operate under the delusion that every museum on Earth is legally required to feature a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton. You will see Americans wandering through the hallowed halls of the Louvre, surrounded by priceless Renaissance masterpieces and ancient pottery, looking genuinely bored and confused. Eventually, they stop a guide and ask, "Okay, the Mona Lisa is small, but where are the dinosaur bones?" We struggle to understand a cultural institution that doesn't cater to our inner 5-year-old. If it doesn't have a giant lizard or an interactive IMAX theater, is it really even a museum? 17. We tell ourselves a beautiful lie on every trip. I am going to make a gorgeous scrapbook when I get home. No, you are not, Susan. You are going to take 3,000 blurry photos of buildings you don't know the names of, and they will rot in the cloud until the end of time. We experience the entire vacation through a 4-inch screen, documenting every meal and sunset for a Facebook audience that doesn't care, only to never look at those pictures ever again. 18. Americans don't know how to relax. We only know how to execute a mission. We build vacation itineraries that look less like a leisure trip and more like a military invasion of Normandy. We schedule fun in 15-minute increments, rushing from one landmark to the next, sweating and stressed, screaming, "Are we having fun yet?" at our exhausted families. The idea of just sitting at a cafe and doing absolutely nothing for 2 hours is a foreign concept that terrifies us to our core. 19. The American demand for ice is an obsession that baffles the rest of the planet. We order a soda and expect a cup filled to the brim with frozen glaciers, leaving room for maybe 3 drops of liquid. When a European waiter serves us a room-temperature beverage with one lonely ice cube floating in it, we look at them like they just committed a war crime. We don't just want a cold drink. We want a temperature-controlled cryotherapy experience, and we are willing to annoy every bartender in the country to get it. 20. Buying fireworks is a rite of passage for us, but doing it on vacation in a state with loose laws turns a regular suburban dad into an accidental arsonist. We cross a state line, see a roadside tent, and suddenly lose all sense of self-preservation. A mild-mannered accountant will buy a box labeled "The Neighborhood Destroyer," light the fuse on a device with the explosive power of a small grenade, and stand 3 feet away in flip-flops holding a beer. We are genuinely shocked when it sets the rental property's lawn on fire. It is a 4th of July tradition to nearly lose a finger because we underestimated a cardboard tube filled with Chinese gunpowder. 21. We tend to look at a map of Europe and treat it like a theme park where the rides are nations. We confidently announce, we'll do the Louvre in the morning, grab lunch in Rome, and hit Oktoberfest in Berlin by dinner, completely ignoring the laws of physics and geography. We treat centuries of history like a checklist to be sprinted through. We spend more time in security lines and train stations than actually seeing the countries, eventually realizing that doing Paris in 4 hours basically means seeing the top of the Eiffel Tower from a taxi window while stuck in traffic. It is peak efficiency applied to leisure, and it ruins everything. 22. The moment a waiter in Europe brings a bottle of sparkling water instead of still, Americans react as if they've been served battery acid. We take a sip, grimace at the bubbles like we've been poisoned, and then have to perform an elaborate pantomime to explain we want the boring liquid. We wave our hands flat, say "no gas" loudly in English, and point at the tap like thirsty cavemen. We honestly believe that carbonated water is a trick designed to confuse us, rather than the standard beverage choice for most of the civilized world. It's a hydration crisis of our own making. 23. We have decided that comfort trumps dignity in every single scenario. We will walk into a Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris wearing stained sweatpants and a hoodie that says State University, and then feel personally attacked when the maitre d' looks at us like we're health code violations. We genuinely don't understand why a blazer might be required for a $300 meal. To us, freedom means the right to wear elastic waistbands to the opera. We treat the entire world like it's our living room, and we are baffled when the world doesn't appreciate our casual vibe. 24. There is a sickness in the American brain that forces us to accept the free upgrade at the rental counter, even when it ruins our trip. A couple on a romantic getaway to Tuscany will end up in a 9-passenger extended SUV because it's more car for the money. They then spend the next week sweating bullets, trying to navigate a vehicle the size of a battleship through medieval alleyways built for donkeys. They spend more on gas than on wine, scraping the mirrors against ancient stone walls, all because they couldn't resist the allure of extra cup holders they didn't need. 25. An American at a buffet is not a diner. They are a financial auditor trying to balance a ledger. We don't eat because we are hungry. We eat to win. We pile the plate high with a nauseating combination of crab legs, pepperoni pizza, sushi, and chocolate cake, driven by a primal need to get our money's worth. It is a biological declaration of war against the restaurant's profit margins. We will eat until we are in physical pain, just to ensure the casino loses $3 on the deal. It is gluttony disguised as economics. 26. We view public transportation in foreign cities with the same suspicion we reserve for unexploded ordnance. We stand in front of a perfectly logical subway map in London or Tokyo, staring at the colored lines like they are alien hieroglyphics. After 30 seconds of confusion, we panic, abandon the idea of saving money, and pay €50 for a taxi that sits in traffic for an hour. The concept of an efficient train system is so foreign to our car-centric brains that we'd rather go bankrupt than figure out which platform is ours. 27. You can take an American to the most breathtaking, serene mountain vista on Earth, but if there is no Wi-Fi, they will experience a spiritual crisis. We start twitching, holding our phones up to the sky like a religious ritual, searching for that elusive bar of LTE. Because in our minds, if you didn't post a story about the sunset didn't legally happen. We are incapable of just existing in a moment without broadcasting it to people who aren't there. A dead zone isn't a chance to unplug. It's a violation of our civil rights. 28. We watch one travel documentary about outdoor markets and suddenly decide we are master negotiators capable of bartering for anything. The problem is, we try to deploy these skills at Harrods in London or a luxury boutique in Tokyo. We stand at the register with a fixed-price designer handbag and ask, "So, what's the cash price if I take it right now?" Like we are haggling for a used lawnmower at a garage sale. The cashier stares at us with a mix of deep confusion and pity, trying to politely explain that this is a corporate department store, not a rug bazaar in Marrakesh. 29. We learn exactly one word of the local language, usually hola or ciao, and we wield it like a sledgehammer. We walk into a bakery in Paris and confidently shout "gracious" at the French baker, completely unaware that we are in the wrong country. We pronounce every vowel with a hard, flat American twang that makes the locals wince in physical pain. We think we are being worldly and sophisticated, but really, we sound like a bad stereotype from a sitcom. The confidence with which we destroy these beautiful languages is honestly impressive in its own way. 30. Americans pack for a weekend trip as if we are leading an expedition to the South Pole. You will see someone landing in the tropics in July, dragging a suitcase that contains a heavy wool coat and snow boots, just in case. Just in case of what? A freak blizzard in the Caribbean? We carry 50 pounds of gear we will never use, paying extra baggage fees to haul our anxieties across the ocean. We don't trust the weather forecast. We only trust our irrational fear of being cold in a desert. 31. There is a distinct criminal energy that comes out during a hotel continental breakfast. We don't just eat, we loot. We bring Tupperware from home. We wrap a dozen pastries in napkins, hard-boil eggs for later, and drain the juice dispenser into our personal water bottles. We are on a $5,000 vacation, yet we are determined to save $8 on lunch by stealing dry muffins and pretending it's a picnic. It's a specialized form of petty theft that we have normalized as being smart with money. 32. We step off the plane in Hawaii or Mexico, and our brains immediately delete any knowledge of solar radiation. We look at the equatorial sun and think, I don't need sunscreen. I have a base tan from walking to my car in Detroit. 3 hours later, we look like a boiled lobster. We spend the rest of the vacation shivering with sun poisoning, slathered in aloe vera, complaining that the sun is different here. It's not different. You just have the complexion of a vampire and the hubris of a Greek tragedy. 33. There is a special kind of cringe reserved for Americans visiting their ancestral homeland. We walk into a pub in Dublin or a trattoria in Rome and immediately tell the board staff, "I'm Irish too," just because our great-grandfather lived in a village 3 hours away in 1890. We expect a hero's welcome, a parade, and a key to the city. Instead, the locals just look at our white sneakers and baseball caps, nod politely, and charge us double for the beer. We are not long-lost cousins, we are just loud tourists with a 23andMe account and a desperate need for connection. 34. We cannot separate our corporate souls from our leisure time. We find ourselves conducting a mental performance review of our own vacation. We sit by the pool, analyzing if we have optimized our relaxation time, or if we are hitting our fun KPIs. If we sleep in too late, we feel guilty for hurting productivity. We turn a week off into a high-stress project management exercise, terrified that we aren't having the most efficient amount of fun possible. It is a special kind of self-sabotage that requires therapy to fix. 35. There is always that one person in the group who read a single travel blog and now believes they are a certified historian. This vacation expert will confidently lead you down a dark alleyway claiming it's a local shortcut to a hidden gem restaurant, only to find out the place has been a laundromat since 2008. They will recite facts about the architecture that are clearly made up on the spot, but they say it with such conviction that you almost believe them. It is a walking example of the Dunning-Kruger effect wearing cargo shorts. 36. Vacation seems to erase our understanding of basic geometry and social contracts, specifically regarding lines. We will be at Disney World, staring at a queue that is visible from space, and someone will inevitably try the "excuse me, just catching up to my family" maneuver. We all know you don't have family up there, Kevin. You are just banking on the fact that the rest of us are too polite to tackle you. You walk past hundreds of people silently wishing for your demise, completely oblivious to the heat of the hate rays burning into your back. 37. The sheer terror on an American's face when they open the door of a European rental car and see 3 pedals is a cinematic masterpiece. We treat a manual transmission like it's an alien spacecraft control panel. To us, shifting gears is a lost art form from the 1800s, like churning butter or dying of dysentery. We stall the car 14 times in the parking lot, grinding the gearbox into dust, while sweating profusely and wondering why the rest of the world refuses to join the 21st century and just give us an automatic. 38. We will travel to Argentina, the holy land of beef, and commit a culinary hate crime by ordering a steak well done. The waiter looks at us like we just asked him to kick a puppy. We insist on having the meat cooked until it has the texture of a hockey puck and the flavor of charcoal. Then, with zero self-awareness, we complain that the world-famous beef was a bit dry and ask for a bottle of ketchup to salvage the disaster we created. It is a tragedy we inflicted upon ourselves. 39. Tipping in a country where it's not required triggers a full-blown existential crisis in the American brain. We stand there sweating, holding the bill, doing mental gymnastics. Is leaving money an insult? Is not leaving money a war crime? We panic and end up throwing a 30% tip on the table for a single espresso just to be safe. The barista looks at us like we're insane billionaires, and we walk away confused, having just single-handedly ruined the local economy because we are terrified of being rude. 40. We treat nature like a grocery list that needs to be checked off as quickly as possible. We will drive 10 hours to a majestic place like Yellowstone, pull over to the side of the road with the engine still running, take exactly one blurry photo of a bison that looks like a brown dot and say, "Okay, seen it, what's next?" We don't actually want to experience the outdoors. We want to tag the location on Instagram and get back to the air conditioning. We reduce the grandeur of the natural world to a drive-through experience because actually walking on a trail sounds like way too much effort. 41. Americans have 2 volume settings: loud and megaphone. We do not have private conversations. We host public broadcasts. You can hear us from 3 blocks away describing our aunt's gallbladder surgery or complaining about the exchange rate. We sit in a quiet, romantic Parisian cafe and completely dominate the sonic landscape, oblivious to the fact that the locals are glaring at us. We assume that if we are speaking English, everyone else wants to hear it, preferably at 80 decibels. 42. The first time an American encounters a paid public toilet in Europe, their brain short-circuits. The idea of exchanging currency for a bodily function feels like a violation of the Constitution. We stand in front of the turnstile, outraged, giving a speech about freedom and liberty to a bathroom attendant who does not care. Eventually, we begrudgingly fish out a coin, muttering under our breath that this would never happen at a gas station in Texas. It is a culture shock that hits us right in the bladder. 43. The first 24 hours on a cruise ship is a study in manic desperation. We treat the daily schedule like a binding legal contract. We are rock climbing at dawn, playing bingo at 10, and entering the belly flop contest at noon. It is a vacation fueled by the fear of missing out. We run ourselves into the ground trying to consume every single activity, ending the day exhausted and sunburned, wondering why we feel more tired than when we were at work. We just don't know how to do nothing. 44. The righteous indignation we feel when a small family-owned restaurant doesn't take American Express is truly something to behold. We look at the waiter with genuine shock, as if he just slapped us. We treat our credit cards with high annual fees like diplomatic passports that should open every door. What do you mean you don't take it? We ask, offended that a trattoria in a medieval village isn't set up to process our airline miles rewards program. It is the height of financial arrogance. 45. Behold the American tourist uniform, a fashion crime that screams, "Please rob me." It consists of blindingly white chunky New Balance sneakers, a fanny pack worn with zero irony across the chest, and a bright neon t-shirt with the name of the city we are currently in. It is a carefully curated look that acts as a beacon for every pickpocket and scam artist within a 5-mile radius. We might as well walk around with a flashing siren and a sign that says, "I have a lot of cash, a blue passport, and absolutely no situational awareness." 46. There is a bizarre American urge to try and break the composure of the Queen's Guard. We walk up to a man holding a machine gun, whose job is to protect royalty, and decide to treat him like a street performer. We crack bad jokes, make funny faces, and ask him about his hat, ignoring the fact that he is a trained soldier who hates us. It is a painful, one-sided conversation where we try to force a connection with a human statue, and it is always embarrassing to watch. 47. We will pay 20 euros to enter a world-renowned modern art gallery, stand in front of a masterpiece of abstract expressionism that represents the duality of man, and loudly declare, "My 5-year-old could paint that." It is the standard, arrogant American critique for anything that isn't a photorealistic painting of a dog or a boat. We say it with such unearned confidence, staring at a canvas that is just a red circle, completely missing the point and proving to everyone in the room that our cultural appreciation stops somewhere around a Norman Rockwell calendar. 48. We are obsessed with getting the funny forced perspective photo, specifically at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We will spend 20 minutes contorting our bodies, directing our spouse to move an inch to the left, blocking the sidewalk for everyone else. We look ridiculous in person, standing there with our hands in the air pushing nothing, all to get a photo that 6 billion other people have already taken. It is the definition of unoriginality, but we treat it like we just invented comedy. 49. And the number one dumbest thing? After 10 days of complaining about the small cars, the lack of ice, the weird showers, and the confusing money, we get home and immediately book another international trip. We learn absolutely nothing from the experience. We forget the stress instantly and convince ourselves that next time will be different. The glorious, predictable cycle of expensive American confusion is unbreakable. And deep down, we wouldn't have it any other way. Be honest. You definitely have a souvenir in your house right now that you hate. A plastic statue, a weird hat, something useless. Go to the comments and tell me, what is the single stupidest thing you bought on vacation that you are too ashamed to throw away? I want to see who wasted the most money. Like the video if you're guilty, subscribe if you're broke.